So, how do you live life around what matters most? That's the question Dr. A always encourages us to answer. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what does that really mean? What does it look like? What does it really look like in your life? One of the things I appreciate most about Dr. A's mentorship is how he reminds us that the answer isn't the same for everyone. Living life around what matters most is personal. It's about your priorities, your perspective, your journey. So let me take you back. 10 years ago, I was a 47-year-old yo-yo dieter battling inflammation from rheumatoid arthritis and slowly going backwards in my health. I was stuck. I had no idea there was a different way. Then I found myself trying out a random online health challenge, which connected me to a woman named Jan Paxman. Now, Jan didn't know me from Adam, and funny fact is she thought I was an Adam. To be fair, with a name like TJ, I get it. But here's the kicker. Jan called me, like actually on the phone. She threw me off with her energy and her questions, and then asked me something bold. Did you know that this program also has a weight loss component? Do you have any need in that area? That question changed my life. She was able to set up a time to chat with me. On the health assessment, she dug deep enough to find out that I was a hairstylist and my retirement plan was to go to Arizona as a snowbird, like my parents had done, and hang a shingle out with a sign saying $10 haircuts. In other words, there would be no retirement for me. She followed up. I hadn't talked to my husband yet, so she followed up again and again until finally I did talk to Kevin. And being the supportive man that he is, he said, what do you have to lose? A few pounds? I said yes. At the time, I was a small town hairdresser of 28 and a half years. I had social anxiety. I was extremely introverted and very much stuck in my ways, a textbook fixed mindset. Then along came Jan and Optavia, and everything changed. In the last 10 years, I lost 53 pounds. I relieved my inflammation and symptoms of RA through using the habits of health. I became a better example to my two teenage daughters. I started developing something I never thought I'd ever have, an open, curious growth mindset. And constantly challenged me. Every time I said I can't, she said, but how can you? She introduced me to Dr. A and the habits of health. She introduced me to personal development, Dave Blanchard, Og Mandino, the power of the scrolls. She brought me into the A-Team calls, the precursor to today's Brave Zoom. And little by little, I grew. What does living life around what matters most look like for me today? Well, I retired from hairdressing and went full-time with Optavia just 18 months into coaching. I wanted Kevin to join me, but at first it wasn't for him. His identity was wrapped up in his career as an auto parts manager. Then one day, Kevin came home and mentioned job opportunity in Oregon. I'd lived in Fruitland, Idaho, all of my life. We had lived on our farm for 30 years. I was in my forever place, but something nudged me to open my heart and ask, what if this is Kevin's Optavia? So we took a leap. We sold the farm, moved to Oregon. He took the job. And let's just say it was not the Optavia experience. One night he walked in and looked at me and said, I quit. Let's buy a camper and hit the road. And that's exactly what we did. Today we live in a little house in north central Idaho. But we spend most of our time on the road in the R-Pod camper and driving the 4Runner. We've traveled across countless states, met clients and coaches from coast to coast, been able to see family and friends, and lived out of that camper more than out of this little house. We are coaches on the loose. We are traveling Optavia coaches. But the most beautiful part of the whole thing We're living a life that most people won't, simply because they won't let themselves shift from I can't to how can I? And when things don't go just exactly like they thought they were supposed to, they don't get open and curious and see the big picture of what had to happen to open the door to the next adventure, instead of being stuck in an unhealthy blaming circumstances mindset. Kevin and I are together nearly 24/7. We're young enough to embrace life, healthy enough to say yes to everything that matters, present enough to show up fully for our parents as they are aging, for our daughters and son-in-law, and to run and play with our 3 amazing grandkids. And yes, after all that time together, we're still married. August 11th, 2025 will be our 35th wedding anniversary. We don't live extravagantly. That's not our aim. Our purpose is to give, to serve, to share the same gifts we received. That is the heartbeat behind coaching with Optavia. And that is what it means to live life around what matters most to me. Thank you for letting me share.